Yeah, my lesson was the same thing. I thought if you liked sports, that you should open an I-9 Sports franchise. So I was getting people that were like a former college football player that, he blew out his knee, but he would have been a pro if he didn't get hurt. And what I found very quickly were the people that knew sports were the worst franchise owners because they were so hell-bent focused on like things like the rules of the game. Do you think, I'm obviously preaching to the choir here, but would you think for a second in the home office and franchising that we talked about home runs and touchdowns and
Nope.
No, we talk about marketing, management, operations, finance, technology, like running the business. And the sports or the nanny agency is nothing more than the vehicle that we use, right? To deliver the product or service. Right. That's really key though for hopefully our audience of people that are thinking of going to franchising because they think, I'm franchising a nanny business, they need to love kids, or sports, they need to love kids, or home services, they need to know about, they need to be able, build a house or something, or be able to do all kind of maintenance. No, that's not it.
That's not it at all.
That, in fact, if anything, that's a hindrance because people can easily focus then on the wrong thing. So I'm glad you got that lesson. I'm glad you shared that. Thank you so much. As you started growing the franchise, did you have, how big was your team?
It was me. I was the team. Team Kristy.
And how long was it Team Kristy until you brought somebody on? Like, what was the first person that you brought on to be part of like a leadership?
It was Robin when we sold Tampa last year.
Right.
I mean, she was doing new franchisee training for me as she was the manager of Tampa. So she would, a couple days a week train the new franchises or new franchisees, but she didn't have like an official role there.
Okay.
And she did by default kind of turn into the person that everybody called when they were having issues or had questions or whatever, just because she had been there the longest. So once we sold Tampa, we could actually pay her for that work that she was doing and make it official and give her a title. And that's really it. It's me, it's Robin, and we have fractional marketing. But as far as the team on payroll, working for corporate Twinkle Toes, it's the two of us.
You guys. And Brooke is your fractional
correct
marketing person. Awesome. Elaborate a little bit on training. Because I have no idea. What does training even look like if you're running a nanny agency?
Well, training looks like it happens in Gainesville at our corporate office there. So whoever it is, wherever they are, they come to Gainesville and we do 3 days of in-person training. Robin does that. I'm there usually. What we do is go through the SOP, the standard operating procedure, and that's, half the day. And then we go through the custom software that we have, which is the next probably day and a half. So we've had built this software that contains all of the scheduling. It processes all of the payments. It pays the nannies. I mean, it's really, when I started, I had 4 different platforms for all those different things. I was using QuickBooks and at first I was just using Google Calendar for all of the scheduling. And then I thought, well, this would be better if I could find this. So then I subscribed to something that did that. So finally I found a developer that could build what I wanted. It's Twinkle Toes and Twinkle Toes only. It communicates with the families and the nannies via email and text, makes schedule changes and, alerts them to when there's a schedule change. And the biggest piece that we just added last was the payment processing.
So technology is really a huge part. You could say you're really in the technology business.
Don't say that though. I hate it. I hate it so much. Like I do not want to be in the
You don't want to say you're a technology company.
I don't. I hate it.
Why?
I know I'm not supposed to say that, but
why?
I'm sorry. You
feel like it feels cold? Is that the problem?
No. I feel like it's a missed opportunity because I've been approached about, the system that I've had built and kind of outsourcing it and not outsourcing it, but licensing it and selling it to other businesses. And the reason I haven't is because I do not want to be the CEO of a tech company. I hate it.
Well, what if somebody else was?
I mean, that's an option. You can give my phone number out.
Is this a legacy business for you, or do you see yourself doing this to a certain number and saying, I've taken
I don't have a number in mind, but I also wouldn't be opposed to it, but I just can't see myself not working. Fine. I can't retire. I'll never retire.
But Twinkle Toes itself, is it a legacy like you could see yourself doing this for life?
Probably. I don't know. That's a hard question. I haven't planned my life that far in advance. I mean, I have no interest in leaving anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're just getting started. I mean, but 21 franchises is impressive. I love that you're not focused on just the quantity the number of franchises that we sell. But do you have a vision on like how big is big, or the number of locations that you'd like to open next 3 to 5 years? What does that look like?
I do. I have a goal of 5 within the next year, within the next 12 months, because I've made some pretty big changes to the franchise agreement, to the support that we're offering. You know, we brought Robin on, we've got Brooke. We're doing work with a couple of different people to really kind of prop them up in the marketing sphere. So I think that all of that, I mean, my goal right now is not to necessarily have more locations. My goal is to get my current locations as successful as they can be and to support those franchisees however they need to be supported. But I think through that, I mean, a natural result of that is going to be selling more locations, because, you know, it's going to be an attractive item 19.
Right.
And it's just a matter of kind of getting the word out about it.
I agree with you. I found anytime I was focused on the right things, I'm focused on being the best, you become the biggest. I mean, not that I saw it. I did not seek out to be the biggest. I was really seeking out to be the best. And the biggest came as a result of being the best.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's the way to go. Anytime I tried to make a decision like strategically based on the numbers, like, it never really worked out for me.
No.
I'm fascinated because some people it's different. Like they focus on the numbers, on how big is big, and then they draw a roadmap on how to get there. But that's just never really, it's just, I don't know, for me, it just never worked.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some key locations in my head that like I want to be in that city and that city.
Yeah.
And I've got a list of my top 5 where I want to be, just because I know there's a hole in the market and it would be a great territory. But like I said, I'm really focused on getting the current franchisees the support that they need. The weak ones that, you know, maybe aren't suited for it, either get them, you know, whatever support they need to kind of level up, or let's talk about an exit strategy and get somebody in there that, you know, is better suited for it.
Good for you. That's the reality of franchising,
That's
right?
the hardest part to me.
It is.
Because I like everybody that I work with. I don't have a single franchisee that I don't like. So it's, and that when you were talking about mistakes earlier, I was thinking like one of the other mistakes is liking somebody.
Yes.
And selling to them because you like them and you get along with them and they're fun and you have a great rapport, but that doesn't make them a good business person.
I agree with you. I've hired people because I like them.
Yep.
I used to get caught up in if they were charismatic on a job interview. I was drawn to them and I'd hire them, and then they would start working for me. And then I'm like, wait, where did that person go?
And then you have to fire somebody that you like.
That you like.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than that.
That's the worst.
Yeah. So you know what I would do is if I interviewed somebody, if you came in through my door and like you were over the top charismatic and I was drawn to you and liked you, I had like a trigger in my head was I had to be even more difficult on the interview. Like I would challenge that person so much more. Because I would say to myself, oh no, I'm not going to.
You're not fooling me.
You're not fooling me. I'm going to absolutely put you through the ringer on this interview.
Yep.
But we get caught up in it because we like people. And especially if they come because they want to buy your franchise, they want to buy your brand, they believe in it, they're saying all the right things. That's why I'm a huge believer in an assessment tool like Predictive Index. I don't know if you've looked at any of those, or DISC, or really anything. Have you guys looked at any of that?
I do the DISC test
You do
now.
DISC. I think that's great. I always tell people, I don't care what you use, but use something.
Right.
It doesn't.
There has to be something objective.
Yes.
And that's been one of the hardest things. Is like, I was talking to a franchisee on the way down here about she's wanting to hire a manager. And it's like, it's so hard to tell how they're going to do when they're in the seat and under pressure.
Right.
And what questions can we ask to determine that? And I was telling her about the DISC test and how, you know, I've given it to all of my top performers and my lowest performers. So I know what I want and I know what I don't want. And it's amazing how consistent it is.
Isn't it?
My top performers are like heavy D's. And then my weakest ones, they all score the same. So now when there's a franchisee that's interested, they get the test. And if they scored D or I, they can continue in the process.
Good for you.
And if they're one of the other 2 letters, like, yeah. Thanks, but no thanks.
So Kristy, back to when we're looking at potential franchisees, and again, I know you're really mindful that they need to be they need to fit with your culture and your brand. When they're doing their due diligence, what's maybe some advice that you give them?
Well, I think the best that they can do is talk to existing franchisees.
Sure.
I mean, that's definitely the best. And I always try to connect them with like Like right now I'm talking to somebody who is a preschool teacher, and I have a franchisee who left her preschool teaching job to do this. And so I tell her, like, make sure you call Joyce. You probably won't call everyone, but make sure you call her, because she too is a single mom, leaving a preschool job. Like, that's who you want to connect with. Or if there's someone in their geographic area, I tell them, like, make sure you touch base with her, because you guys will probably be, sharing events and working closely together. I always tell them to do their market research, like secret shop other agencies, call them and act like you're a family, call them and act like you're a nanny.
Great.
And just learn, like, the biggest thing, which this is so weird to me, it never fails every time we do this, the number of times people just don't answer the phone.
Yes.
And don't call back. Like, and so the takeaway is, like, do you see, if you just answer your phone, you're going to get the business.
Right.
Just be available.
Right.
You will get the business. And that's a huge lesson for them. But that's also why in my franchise agreement, you're not allowed to have another job. This is all you can do.
Good for you.
Because it's a full-time job. Like we talked about earlier, like if I were trying to do property management and this never would have happened. So, but that's the biggest takeaway. It's like, that's why you can't be doing something else, because when the phone rings, you have to answer it.
Yeah. People still do like to speak on the phone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially parents.
Yes. Yes. I don't remember the actual statistic, but it is super high statistic of the odds that you will actually close a franchisee by you being the first one to answer the phone, because
the franchisor being the first one?
The franchisor. You will be the selected franchisor by a potential franchisee by you answering the phone. In other words, a potential franchisee is going to call a lot of franchises, and the franchisor that answers the phone first is most likely going to get that deal. Because,
I believe that.
Yeah, because even in franchising, you have franchisors that are not answering the phone.
Yep.
What are some of the traits of a successful franchisee?
Wow. Some traits. So being decisive, not overcomplicating things.
Right.
I was just having this conversation with someone yesterday. The reason you buy a franchise is because we have figured out what works, right? So don't buy a franchise and then try to find a better way and complicate it. Because that's what I spent 6 years doing, even longer. Even after I was a franchisor, I was still doing that. What we have now is the recipe for success. And if you're buying, like, that's what you're buying into. So don't try to complicate it and change it. There's not a better way. If there was, that would be the way we did it. It's a weird mix when you're looking for franchisees, because they have to be part entrepreneur, but also part employee.
Right.
And I don't mean in the legal tax sense.
Right.
I mean, like, you have to be able to follow instruction and do it the way that it's supposed to be done. That's the employee part. But you also have to be able to problem solve, be creative with your marketing, with your networking, have that spirit of, like, independence and willing to try new things. But you also have to stay within these bounds. So it's a weird mix.
And you just reconfirmed why DISC, or predictive index,
Correct.
is critical, because it can never come through on an interview.
Nope.
And they can't fake their way through DISC or predictive index.
No.
That's going to come through loud and clear, especially if you know ahead of time this is the common traits of a successful franchisor, or where they get tripped up, a successful franchisee, or where they get tripped up, is not willingness to follow the details. Or in my case, if somebody, there's a fine line between being patient and impatient. And
what do you mean?
Somebody that's very impatient with wanting to succeed, they would burn out. So they need a level of patience, because if they were impatient enough, they had that get up and go. But if they had too much patience, they maybe didn't necessarily have that fire. So it's like those things don't come through on an interview.
Right. Yeah. My favorite is the people that are like, I'm just, really thinking positive, and I'm going to manifest the business to come in. I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding me. You can't manifest success.
No, you have to get up in the morning and
Yes.
actually do something.
Go do it.
But you can manifest it too, but go ahead and actually do the work.
The manifesting is the
result.
The result of you getting up early and answering the phone and going to the events and doing the things.
Right. Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.